Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3854, and today's date is March 5th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Government Jobs Back to 1966 Levels. Trump acquires approximately a ton of gold from Venezuela. Central banks cause inflation, and that is a threat to you, your savings account, your retirement. Ask yourself an honest question. Does your dollar go as far as it did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even last year? So what does the next decade look like for you and your savings? If your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's time to rethink your strategy. Gold has kept up with inflation and in many periods outpaced it. My friends at Noble Gold Investment specialize in helping people protect their wealth with physical gold and silver. Whether you're rolling over an IRA or making a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process and makes it very simple. No pressure, just education and experience. Right now, all new qualified accounts will receive a free 1/10 of an ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. Visit X22Gold.com. That is X22Gold.com, and discover how easy it is to protect your financial future. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you could see what Trump is doing right now. Number one, he's dismantling the entire climate agenda. Everything that Al Gore and all the others have said has never, ever come true, and Trump has been debunking them every step of the way. The other thing that we could see as of right now, Trump now is shrinking government, and he's actually brought it back to the position, I'm talking about the jobs, from 1966 levels. So he brought jobs back to 1966 levels. And once again, this has to be done because if we're going to move forward with removing the private West Central Bank, going back to sound money, bringing in tariff money and other money via energy sales, technology sales, gold car sales, you name it, we cannot have a bloated government the way the central bank has created it and kept it in force for a very long time. We need to shrink it down. And this is what our founding fathers wanted from the very, very beginning. They didn't want a bloated government. They wanted a very small government to handle certain issues that came up, and that was it. And this is what Trump is doing because he's preparing the entire country to do what? To go back to sound money, to remove the private West Central Bank system. And you could see already Trump, he is now acquiring approximately a ton of gold from Venezuela. Now, this is not going into Fort Knox, but again, like we said from the very, very beginning, as gold continually moves up and up and up and up, what is Trump going to do? He's going to bring attention to gold. And I do believe this is just the beginning of all of this because once again, if you look around the world and you look at what Trump has been doing, he's basically moving all the pieces around to place the United States in a firm footing to move forward without the central bank system. And to do that, you can't have everything the central bank system that created across the world. You have to basically dismantle it. And that's exactly what he's doing. And he's making sure that the old world that they were trying to create, which was having China as a superpower, he's basically resetting what they did. So they wanted to reset their old system to bring us into their new system. Trump now is resetting their system and actually creating a brand new system, which is going to be backed by the people, and the people are going to control the system, not the private West Central Bank systems, not the deep state players, not China. And you can see this is what the deep state, the central bankers do not want. Every step of the way, they're going to try to fight him. And every step of the way, they're going to lose. And you could see with the entire climate hoax, Trump, well, he's debunking Al Gore's climate fears and has made the world a better place. And every step of the way, there was Greta Thunberg telling us that we have 10 years, and that was 10 years ago. And then, of course, we had others telling us 10 years before that. Basically, they have been using fear to scare us into doing what they wanted us to do. And now you can see it's completely and utterly falling apart. And again, you can see the same things happening right now with the mission that is happening now with Iran. You can see the deep state players, the fake news. Everyone is pushing fear, saying oil is going to skyrocket in the world and the sky is falling and everything else. But when you look back during Biden's time, Oil was much, much higher. And they're talking about this little blip that we're experiencing right now. Willis Etchenbach put this out and said, people freaking out about a blip in oil. Prices to $77 because of the strikes on Iran. Meanwhile, they have forgotten that Biden had oil up around $120 with no strike on Iran. He did that all on his own. And that is so true. When you look at Trump, he brought the oil prices down close to $60 a barrel. And now, yes, they moved up a little bit. But again, that's because of fear. And when you look at the reality of the situation, we're not even close to where Biden brought us. And I do believe what's going to happen is we're going to see the oil prices fall. Stephen Moore put this out and said, oil spiked just 8% after Iran's attack, not $80 to $100 as predicted, because the U.S. is producing record-breaking 13.6 million barrels a day. So let's see. We have the country now drilling like crazy. We're producing a lot of oil. And in a couple of weeks, you know what's going to happen? We're going to see oil drop right back down. Joe Lane says, what are the odds that the oil price is back down around $60 by the end of the month? I think pretty good. And I completely and utterly agree with Joe Lynch, because once again, what do you see happening now across the world? Trump now is resetting the entire economic system, resetting everything that has to do with energy. Remember, the deep state players, the central bankers, they tried to control the energy to push their Green New scam. Trump now is unleashing the energy across the world to benefit the people of this country and the people of the world. So everything is about to change. And everything that he does, it's setting up for the new world. The world where we're going to have an incredible amount of cheap energy. A world where we are manufacturing. A world where we don't have a private central bank, where the private central bank is not taking our hard-earned labor and using it for their own agenda. We get to keep our hard-earned labor, which is money. And he's doing all of this so we can become a very powerful nation in regards to military, in regards to the economy, in regards to manufacturing, in regards to energy production. So we could see that all of this is happening right now. And Trump, he said that electricity prices in communities where tech companies are building data centers will not rise, and in many cases will come down, thanks to ratepayer protection pledge. Trump hosted leaders of a top tech companies, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, Oracle, and XAI in the Indian Treaty Room of the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, and stated that the ratepayer protection pledge will not only shield Americans from higher costs due to data centers, but actually bring costs down in many communities. Under this new agreement, big tech companies are committing to fully cover the cost of increased electricity production required for AI data centers. Prices for American communities will not go up, and in many cases, they will come down. Under the agreement, the companies pledge to build, bring, or buy new generation resources and cover the cost of all power delivery infrastructure upgrades required for data centers, ensuring such expenses are not passed to American households. So once again, companies now are going to be paying for their own energy. Most of them will probably contract with fusion companies. They'll put small little reactors next to their manufacturing plants, and that will provide the electricity that they need. So we could see that all of this is changing, and the people of this country will not be affected whatsoever, which means once these companies and other companies are taken off the grid, what is going to happen? That means you're going to see electric start to fall. Electric pricing, it's going to start to fall, and it's going to start to fall rapidly. It's almost like when you deport the illegals out of this country, and since they've been taking, the rentals, and government has been paying for the rentals, since they've been taking housing and government's paying for the housing, and these illegals are working in different jobs and wages go down because of that, you're going to see the same exact thing. With the illegals, when you get rid of them, wages go up. When you remove the illegals, rents go down, housing goes down. When you have corporations paying for the electricity costs, all of a sudden you see electricity go down for the people. So we're going to see a huge, huge change. And it looks like Brendan Carr is going to make another change. And this has to do with call centers, because a lot of companies, what did they do? They decided, you know something, it's too expensive to have the call centers in this country. So what they did is they outsourced the call centers to other countries. And out there, they're paying those people pennies on the dollar. Now, you have to ask yourself a simple question. Why did they do this? Well, it's very simple. It goes back to the private West central bank system. Remember, as the currency loses value, what do you have to do? Those companies or farms that you can't move out of this country, you have to bring in cheaper labor into this country. That's what the deep state players were doing. The companies that you can ship overseas and manufacture in other places and pay people pennies on the dollar actually have slave labor. You do that. So those companies that kept certain individuals within this country to answer the calls, they started to realize, hey, we can't afford these people. The value of the currency keeps declining. Our profits are off. So let's shift all of this to other countries and let's pay them a lot less out there. And this way we can still do business with everyone in this country. And that's what they've done. And it looks like Brendan Carr is about to change all of that. Americans get frustrated when they call a U.S. business and end up speaking with someone at a call center located in a foreign country. Language and communication barriers only make it harder for callers to get the results they want. So the FCC is seeking comment on several ideas that could help, including facilitating the onshoring of foreign call centers, requiring operators at call centers to be proficient in American Standard English, further crackdown on illegal robocalls from abroad through the use of targeted tariffs on or bonds. The FCC's proposal focus on the call centers run by the communication providers regulated by the FCC and could represent steps for the government to build on it more broadly. So, yes, this is the beginning stages because, again, if you tried to shift everything right off the bat, it's going to be very, very difficult because, again, we still have the central bank system, the currency, the inflation still stands. So, yes, you need to implement certain things to basically mitigate the problems. And then slowly but surely, as the manufacturers come back to this country and we shift away from the central bank system, you can slowly bring those jobs back. But in the meantime, what do? You make sure that the people get good service. The people speak to people that can actually speak English. And eventually what happens is the companies, as time goes on, as we move the central bank system, the companies then can shift the jobs back to the United States. I mean, actually, Trump is just doing everything in reverse that the central bank did. If you go back a little bit in time, if you go back to the 1970s when we came off the gold standard, this is what the companies did. They slowly moved the manufacturers out of this country. They slowly brought in illegals to work in certain businesses, and they slowly shifted everyone to different countries for the call centers. Because again, this is all part of the central bank system and it collapses in the end. But everyone's panicking about AI jobs. Now, is this going to affect plumbers, electricians, those people that actually have skills that work with their hands that have to go to certain places to do the jobs? No, not really. What jobs are mostly going to be affected? Well, Peter Sayong, PhD, put this out and said, Hollywood in panic mode that AI will take their jobs. The AI job replacement is turning surgical, taking out celebrities, lawyers, and low-end IT. While boosting blue collars and trades, AI cannot replace. So that is very, very interesting that as of right now, AI is going to be replacing those jobs that shouldn't, we really don't need today. And we're going to be actually ramping up on vocational type of jobs. And again, AI is really not going to take those jobs over as of right now. Central banks cause inflation, and that is a threat to you, your savings account, your retirement. Ask yourself an honest question. Does your dollar go as far as it did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even last year? So what does the next decade look like for you and your savings? If your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's time to rethink your strategy. Gold has kept up with inflation and in many periods outpaced it. My friends at Noble Gold Investment specialize in helping people protect their wealth with physical gold and silver. Whether you're rolling over an IRA or making a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process and makes it very simple. No pressure, just education and experience. Right now, all new qualified accounts will receive a free 1/10 of an ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. Visit X22Gold.com. That is X22Gold.com, and discover how easy it is to protect your financial future. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. So we can see where all this is headed, and this is going to be very, very interesting. But like we said from the very, very beginning, as Trump continually builds up the parallel economic system, what else is he doing? Well, he's removing federal employment, and he's removed a lot of jobs. Amuse put this out and said, while he's been eliminating our enemies in Venezuela and Iran, Trump has quietly reduced federal employment to the lowest level since 1966, all while increasing private sector employment by millions. And once again, why did the central bank bloat the government? Number one, when you bloat the government, it makes it that much more difficult to basically remove the central bank, because you need the central bank to pay for all of this. When you bloat the government, you can use the bloated government to what? To basically siphon the money to all the different programs. Then once it reaches those programs, a very small percentage goes to that program. The rest is laundered throughout the world to push their agenda. And as you shift the manufacturing and other jobs out of this country, what do you got to do? You got to make it look like we're still producing jobs. So if you're adding more and more jobs to government, which actually don't really do anything, doesn't produce, doesn't add to the economy, you can show that the jobs are still good. We are still 100% employment. Remember, what is the mandate for the Federal Reserve? Make sure there's no inflation and make sure we're at 100% employment. So if they shifted, because of their system, all the manufacturing jobs, the call centers and everything else out of this country, and they didn't create the government jobs, what would the entire country look like? It would look like we're losing jobs left and right. They'd be in violation of their mandate. To cover this up, what do? Oh, we just lost 10,000 private sector. Let's create 10,000 government jobs. This will cover it up. Now Trump is doing the opposite. He's removing the federal employment and actually replacing them with private sector jobs, slowly but surely. And again, when it's all said and done, what do you think is going to happen? The government is going to be very, very small. And the other thing that he's doing now, he's removing all barriers, and Trump put this out on Truth, all barriers to building infrastructure in states, and he wants the states to join on to this. So the states opted into the Fast 41 process, sinking state and federal limits to make building faster. The $7.4 billion Korea Zinc project to build a smelter in Tennessee will likely be the first project listed under the agreement with the state of Tennessee. The Trump administration hopes all 50 states will sign similar MOUs to speed up building. So basically, Burgum expects Alaska to sign a similar agreement in the near future. And the Permitting Council signed its first statewide MOU in August of 2025 with Alaska. The agreements with Tennessee and Idaho build on that MOU by becoming the first commitments to align state and federal permitting timetables. This will speed up the process of projects like the Alaska LNG pipelines, a $44 billion infrastructure initiative that is a priority for the president, Bergman says. And the Permitting Council is also holding meetings with the blue states to work on agreements. The memorandums of understanding are expected to speed up the process of building data centers. So you could see that Trump is trying to remove all these regulations, trying to fast track everything, and trying to get things moving a lot quicker. Because you have to remember what we've seen in the past. What we've seen in the past is that the states, controlled by the deep state players, controlled by the central bankers, they didn't want projects to move too quickly. They wanted everything slowed down. They used it for money laundering. You could see that in California with the high-speed train. You could see that in Minnesota. And they didn't want anyone to realize that we can build things at a very rapid pace. I mean, if you look at California where the fires were, California is basically shutting down the building of anything, and they're slow-walking everything, while the Trump administration went ahead and fast-tracked everything. So Trump now is just reversing everything that they did because he realizes that we can basically build at a very rapid pace, and we don't have to wait 1, 2, 3 years. We can have this done in a matter of months. So think about what Trump is doing right now. He's basically restructuring everything and getting the entire economic system and the states prepared for the new economy. And think about it. Just yesterday, we just talked about the Genius Act, and he's actually preparing the financial institutions for all of this. James E. Thorne put this out and said, for the record, Jamie Dimon says he wants a level playing field for the stablecoins. What he really wants is to make sure nobody can offer you a better deal on your own money than traditional banks. The president is right to call the banks out on this. We've seen this before. In the 70s, money market funds started paying real yields while banks were locked under deposit caps. Banks cried unfair, unsafe, lobbied furiously, and lost. Policymakers chose competition over protection. Savers got paid, and banks had to adapt instead of suffocating to the threat. Today's script is the same, just with better technology. Stablecoin issuers now operate under licensing, one-on-one high-quality reserves, liquidity and risk rules, audits, and strict AML standards. This is not the Wild West, yet Dimon still talks as if they exist with no reserves, no compliance, no oversight. He's not describing reality. He's describing a story that justifies shutting down a rival funding system. The Clarity Act is the real battlefield. On paper, it's about integrating crypto into U.S. market structure. In practice, the big banks are fighting to ensure that anything that looks like a deposit with yield must either become a bank product or be regulated into irrelevance. Level playing field, in their vocabulary, means everyone wears the bank straitjacket or no one plays. Why? Because yield-bearing stablecoins blow up the quiet cartel behind record profits. Banks live on deposits that pay close to nothing, even when risk-free rates are high. They earn a clean spread and interest on balance parked at the Fed while passing little of it through to savers. Savers get crumbs. Banks get the margin. Inertia does the rest. A credible regulated stablecoin that passes through the money market yields detonates that racket. With a few clicks, your cash can leave the cartel. The president's critique goes straight at this arrangement. Americans should earn more money on their money, and banks should not be allowed to undermine laws designed to make that possible or to stall a market structure bill so the whole powerful crypto agenda decamps overseas. He's not attacking banking. He's attacking a model that treats low-yield deposits as entitlement and regulation as a weapon. Crypto-native firms, for all their flaws, behave like they live in a real market. They build new instruments, disclose, and pay up to attract capital. The banks build talking points and hire lobbyists. Stablecoins don't just threaten their funding. They threaten their chokehold on payment rails and transaction data. Call this debate what it is. Not a fight over safety, but a fight over whether a protected deposit cartel gets veto power over technologies that finally let savers earn something closer to the risk-free rate. In the 70s, policymakers chose competition. In the 70s, banks were forced to stop hiding behind regulations and compete. If Jamie Dimon wants a level playing field, he should stop complaining and start doing the same. And that's absolutely true. And think about what they've done. The central bank, and remember, the banks, they are on the board of the New York Fed. They own the New York Fed. They own the private corporations. They've been controlling everything. And I think this is why Trump, if you go back a little bit in time, he let everyone know that soon the banks might be the thing of the past, which I do believe that's exactly what's going to happen. And yes, the banks are going to fight this every step of the way. And in the end, they're going to lose. And think about what Trump has just done. Trump admin, they have facilitated a large gold order between the U.S. and Venezuela with up to 1,000 kilograms of gold to be shipped to the U.S. Now, does this mean it's going into Fort Knox? Does this mean that the U.S. is getting all this gold? Well, it looks like what they did was they brokered and facilitated a deal as part of a broader U.S.-Venezuela economic engagement under Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez. Neither Trump personally nor the U.S. government is directly purchasing the gold. It's a private sector transaction between Minerven and Trafigura, with U.S. officials acting as intermediaries to enable it. The deal involves newly mined gold from Venezuela operation and is unrelated to the $550 million gold that Venezuela sought to repatriate from the Bank of England in 2018. The older gold reserve, now valued at around 4.8 billion and totaling about 31 tons, remains frozen in the Bank of England vaults due to ongoing legal and diplomatic disputes. The UK government has not recognized Venezuela's interim administration, so the reserves are not being released or repatriated, even after Maduro's ouster and the arrest in early of 2026. This arrangement is enabled by a U.S. Treasury Office of Foreign Asset Control license, allowing the transaction despite prior sanctions. But it's fundamentally a private sector commercial deal between Minervin and Trafigura. The U.S. government facilitated the agreement through diplomatic efforts, including a visit by Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, but is not purchasing, seizing, or retaining the gold itself. Proceeds from the sale go to Venezuela government, and the refined gold enters the broader U.S. market ecosystem. So this is about 1.1 tons of gold worth $163 million or so. But again, what is Trump and what is the administration doing? They're bringing gold back to the U.S., which I find very, very interesting. And I do believe as time goes on, I do believe Trump is going to increase the narrative of gold and talk about gold even more so. Remember, timing is very, very important. Optics are very, very important. And again, as you're basically destroying the central bank system and restructuring the central bank system, you don't want to tip your hat too soon. So as time goes on, I think we're going to see a lot more of this. And I think it's going to build upon each other as time goes on, just like with the stable coins. Trump is putting everything in place so we can separate ourselves from the private Western Central Bank and we can have a stable economy. Remember, he doesn't want the system to crash. He doesn't want everyone to lose their wealth. He wants to make a very smooth transition. And by putting the stable coins and, of course, the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, and putting all these things into place and actually bringing gold back to the U.S., he's actually positioning the U.S. so he can actually transition very, very smoothly into the new system. And I do believe that's exactly what he's doing. He's basically reorganizing the world. He's removing the globalist system, removing the deep state, removing the central bank system, slowly but surely. And he's doing this so this benefits the people of this country and protects the people of this country. Remember, going back in time, all the way back to 1913, especially in 1971, the deep state, the central bankers, they restructured everything to fit their system, not to benefit the people, but to fit their system. Everything that we experience, especially since 1971, has hurt every single person in this country. Yes, there are certain people that are able to play the game, but the majority of people in this country, they are suffering because under the central bank system, the system is designed to keep you down. It's designed to keep you working harder and harder and harder. It's designed to deplete your savings. It's designed to keep you in debt. Trump now is breaking those chains. And this is why he's repositioning. Remember, the central bank had since 1913 to establish their system and to create the system the way we see it today. And yes, from 1971 moving forward, they accelerated all of this. And now Trump, in a very short period of time, is basically restructuring everything into a place where we're no longer enslaved by the central bank. And he's positioning himself where he has the leverage and the strength to restructure the central bank. That is what you're witnessing right now. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.